Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to my first ever Dapol diesel review. So far then, I've already looked at a couple of Dapol locos, but those have all been steam locos, the B4 Shunter I think it was, and also the Steam Sentinel. I've never really looked at what Dapol are known for, and of course what Dapol are known for are, well, apart from really badly made Doctor Who action figures, is of course British diesels, and I've got one just here, here it is. So this is one of the Dapol Class 22s. Loads and loads of people have recommended Dapol diesels to me. They say they're fantastic and you ought to try them. For some reason I never have done, up until now of course, so this is the one I went for. It's a Class 22 or Baby Warship as they're also known. My particular version is in the BR Green, although there are lots of different versions out there. Dapol have done quite a lot of different variations, and in fact Hattons have most of those in stock, so if you'd like to see the range I will include a link in the description for you. This model I believe was made in 2011, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I was able to find out. So it is a couple of years old now, but it's still, I would say, a relatively modern loco from what I hear. They are very, very expensive, £149.95 I think it was. Let me just check. Yes, it was. Don't have to be precise in these things. Although, of course, if you do go to a retailer such as Hattons, you can get them a lot cheaper. So as I say, yeah, link in the description if you'd like. However, let's get to it then. Let's see what this one's like. As I say, I've not had this out of the box yet. Well, I've not said that actually. I haven't had this out of the box yet, so this will be the first time. Always a little bit exciting when you're getting a loco out for the first time. So come with me and we will take a look. So, I think I've probably said this before, but I'm going to say it again here. I must say the Dapol packaging is really, really impressive. In fact, you can tell that at least on the packaging, no expense at all has been spared. So it's rock solid, as you can tell. I think it's really, really thick cardboard, which should do a really, really good job of protecting the model, of course. And obviously, you can see exactly what's inside the box. It's not just an anonymous blue box. You can see you've got the line drawing of the loco on the front, and even if you didn't recognise the loco, it says that it's a North British Class 22 locomotive on the front, so absolutely no confusion possible there. There's not an awful lot of info or anything like that on the back of the box. I'm assuming we're going to get all of that inside, so I will just briefly show you what's written on the end of the box. So my particular version is 4D-012009. It's a Class 22, I think that's the running number there, D6322. It's in the BR Green and SYP disc with head codes. I'm not 100% sure what that means. As I say, I'm not much of a diesel expert, or indeed any sort of expert, but yeah, that's what it is, and as I say, there are quite a few different variations available. But for now then, let's lift the lid and find out what we've got inside. I mean, obviously it's going to be a Class 22 inside, isn't it? But let's see what it's like, shall we? So we've got some protective foam. Again, this is very, very impressive. Really thick protective foam here, so there's no chance of this loco getting damaged whatsoever. And there it is. I must say, blimey, this is the first time I've had the lid of the box off. There's, yeah, there's a lot of box for a very small loco, isn't there? But I suppose that's so they can use a standard box size for larger diesels too. So let's have a look then. What are these? Oh my gosh, this looks impressive. Okay, so we've got some little packs at the side. Let's take a look at these then. Now, this is where I'm going to show my ignorance. So anyway, we've got some sprues. I can recognise those as the head codes, but there's an awful lot of other parts as well. All separately painted, by the way. I think I'll just show them rather than embarrass myself and try and explain what they are. But yeah, as you can see, lots of optional detail there that you can fit. And there's a second one. Let's have a look at this one. Right, okay, so I recognise most of these parts. As you can see, we've got some hoses, what look like screw link couplings in there, all very, very finely moulded, actually. They look pretty good. And then you've got these sprues, not sure what those are. I'll have to sort of get a magnifying glass and look at those. Very tiny pieces anyway on sprues. I'm sure the instructions actually will probably tell us what those are. But just for safekeeping, I'm going to pop these back into the box just so I don't lose them. There we go. But that's quite cool. I love the way they're sort of incorporated into the packaging. That's very cleverly done. Okay, well, let's not mess around too much more then. Let's actually get this thing out if possible. And it's very snugly fitted into there. And it's even got the blister packaging despite all of the foam around it, which is very good. So I'll put that to one side and we will take a look if I can. Ooh, okay, so we've got this sort of plastic band around this. Which is holding all of this inside. I'm not 100% sure what the best way to get this off is. I think actually I might use some scissors to cut it. Be right back with some scissors. Okay, yeah, I didn't want to start trying to yank these things off, otherwise it's going to damage things, isn't it? So I will just cut this with scissors, if I can. These scissors are rubbish, aren't they? Yes, they are. Okay. there we go, I got it. Okay, so Dapol, let's have a look at this. No quibble, 24-month mechanical warranty. Oh, that's very good. So that's reassuring. That proves that they're willing to stand by their models. So there we go. You could fill that out if you wanted to, and they will service or repair your model, I assume, within 24 months of purchase, which is very good. That's very reassuring. We've got this, which appears to be the Class 22 DCC guide. Well, that's not terribly relevant. I will show it, but obviously my version is just DCC ready, I think. I think I bought a DCC ready version. But that tells you how to operate it once it's fitted with DCC, and I assume also how to actually fit it with DCC as well. Yes, there is a section there on fitting your own decoder, so that's all good. And then we have, oh, here we go. We have a separate booklet, it looks like, for the Class 22 and the history behind it. And the instructions are, I see. Okay, so there we go, there's the front cover. Nice colour printing, by the way, as you can see, of the thing on the front there. Slightly spoiling the surprise of what it looks like, but then again, I suppose we've all seen Class 22s before. And there we have it inside. So that's a little bit about the model, as you can see. Again, lovely colour printing. It shows you all about fitting the accessories and things on there, how to fit it with DCC sound. So I actually will have a good read through that actually before we get this down onto the track. So yeah, there we go. And on the back, a little bit about maintenance and lubrication. So that's all very good. Yeah, that covers all bases definitely, doesn't it? So yes, very good and thorough. Okay, well, let's get on to the part we're all looking forward to then, which is to get the loco out now. It does weigh an awful lot. I've not got it out yet, and I can tell that it's a very, very heavy model indeed. So let's get this open then, and for the very first time, let's take a look at the Dapol Class 22. Wow, I love the size of this thing. It's actually really tiny. Well, not tiny, obviously, but a lot smaller than I was expecting. So we've got some plastic, as you can see, on the ends, which I will carefully take off in just a second. Yeah, they're sort of stuck on. It's not sellotape, don't worry. I don't know, it's like it's stuck on there with static electricity or something. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, it looks like a really, really impressive model, doesn't it? It's beautifully painted. It is very heavy, I must say. There's an awful lot of weight to this. And yeah, just in the hands. I mean, I've unboxed a lot of Helgen locos recently. I don't want to say anything nasty about Helgen right now, but there's just something firm about this. You know, my fingers are touching the underframe, my fingers are touching the grills and the bodywork, and none of it's moving, which is a slightly strange experience for me, as I say, having just handled quite a lot of Helgen locos. So I must say, I am really liking this so far, and for a model that, if I'm right, was released in 2011, this looks to be really, really modern and impressive and up to date. So we'll take a close look at this in just a second, but for now, here's a little bit of background history on the Class 22 for anyone that was interested. So the Class 22 earned the nickname of Baby Warship, basically as a result of their similar appearance to the much larger Class 41 warships. Also from the western region of British Railways, these early diesel hydraulics were first introduced in 1959, and 58 were produced in total over the next few years. Like many brand new designs, there were a number of teething troubles and reliability issues to begin with, and in the time it took to iron out these problems, there were a number of larger and more powerful diesels that had been introduced, meaning that the Class 22 spent most of their time in service taking more minor and secondary duties. The class, quite sadly actually, were withdrawn between 1967 and 1972 after a relatively short working lifetime. Well, that makes some of them possibly as little as 8 years old when they were retired, which is a real shame. And sadly, none were preserved. I believe one was purchased by a private owner, but even that one was cut up in the end. So sadly, no Class 22s did survive. So there it is then up against the white background. Actually quite a beautiful thing, isn't it, this Dapol Class 22. It really, really does look the part. So it must be said though that this thing is very, very expensive. At nearly £150, this thing costs quite a lot of money. However, let's be fair here, you seem to get exactly what you pay for. There's just an air of quality about this, which is undeniable, and I spotted it as soon as it came out of the box. First of all, it's just the tiny, silly little details, really. When I turned it upside down, for example, I saw screws. I can't tell you how amazed I was to see screws on a diesel. I'd forgotten what that was like. But yeah, this underframe assembly here has got screws holding it on. The NEM couplings, the NEM pockets, have got screws holding them on so that they don't just drop off when you couple one too many coaches to the thing. It's just little things like that that really, really do make a difference. Now the body, I think again, the body is just clipped onto the model. There are no screws holding the body, but it's absolutely rigid. You can lift the thing up and the body doesn't come off. It sounds simple and it sounds silly, but when these little things fail, it really does affect the perceived quality of the model. And this one is solid. It really, really is rock solid. So yes, it's very expensive, but at least you get what you pay for, even down to the packaging, you know, really, really top quality. So that is excellent. I really must say I like this. And the level of detail, even if it is from 2011, seems to be really, really high. So let's take a look at the paintwork first. You've got the late British Railways crest on the side of there, which is very, very nicely applied. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a bad one on any model ever. So obviously all of the manufacturers have got that just right, but yep, this one's no different. It's very nicely done. The ends, as you can see, are nicely painted up, and the ends actually are a good test of a manufacturer's ability to paint properly. If you look at the portion where the yellow meets with the green, on a sort of cheaper, nastier model, you tend to see a bit of that yellow bleeding over onto the green, but there's absolutely nothing like that on this model. In fact, it's sharp as a pin, really, really sharp. I don't know how they managed to do that. It's certainly not something I'd be able to do with my hands and a paintbrush. But yeah, very, very impressive is that. And in fact, the paintwork is very impressive on the whole model. So you've got this sort of metal riveted effect underneath the doors, which again is very, very nicely painted, quite realistic looking too. On the sides of the cab, you've got the running number, of course, and some other smaller printed details there, which I can't actually make out with the naked eye. I'm not 100% sure whether those are legible or not, but I'll try and get a close-up so that you can see. And actually that tiny little plaque underneath the running number appears to be separately fitted. It's almost as though it's been etched. I can see a tiny bit of glue around it, which is a real quality touch, and goodness knows how they've managed to get those fitted so perfectly. Yeah, that is quite impressive, isn't it? The roof, of course, is a slightly different colour, and again, there's sort of no blurring between the green and the sort of off-grey colour that the roof is painted into. It's really, really done to a high standard. The grills and things on the side of the model, I don't believe they're etched or anything like that, but they are reasonably convincing looking, aren't they? I think they are just done in plastic, but they look very good, it must be said. Obviously, the entire model is decked out with glazed windows, as you can see, which are finely fitted, and none of those are on the wonk, and none of them are loose or dropped out or anything like that. So again, it's just that small element of quality which makes such a big difference. The cab windows are slightly different because they've got sort of silver lining around them, and in fact, they've got that sort of riveted metal effect around the edges as well, which really does look effective. Nicely glazed windows. The windows on the front have also got the separately fitted windscreen wipers, which, as you can see, are really, really fine parts. Again, those are not just painted onto the windscreens, those are separately fitted, which again is a really, really tiny, but a really, really nice little touch, which just demonstrates attention to detail, doesn't it? The ends of the model, we've already talked about the paintwork, but as you can see, we do have separately fitted lamp brackets, which look excellent. The buffer beams, as they come straight out of the box, do look pretty basic, because obviously I've not fitted any of the extra details that you can fit if you like. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that until you've tested it on the layout first, because obviously the vacuum hoses and the screw link couplings and things, they are liable to snag and cause derailments and things, but obviously just be aware that that can happen. And then you've got the buffers, which are separately fitted, and I believe they're sprung. Let's see. Yes, sprung buffers. So again, yeah, you just get the impression that no expense has been spared with those, which is great to see. Even the bogies are very, very highly detailed. You've got what appear to be separately fitted parts on this upper section here. They do seem to be very securely applied, which is great to see. The wheels are quite interesting. On this early diesel, we seem to have sort of spoked wheels, which is quite interesting. I do like the look of that, actually. It's almost reminiscent of the steam era, isn't it, which I quite like. In fact, the underframe of the loco on the whole is very well detailed. As you can see, there seems to be quite a few separately fitted parts, actually, on the underframe there, which are very, very subtle, but you can see that they're there. And actually, looking at the bogies, you've got all sorts of tiny little details onto there. I'll try and get a decent shot of that, but you have what appear to be sort of air cylinders or something, possibly for the brakes, or possibly they're not even air cylinders, I don't know. But yeah, tiny little details like that are very, very impressive. I should, I suppose, show you inside the cab. As you can see, there's not an awful lot of cab detail inside there, no figures or anything inside, although the seats do appear to have been painted a slightly different colour, and I can't really see if there are any controls inside. Actually, yes, there are. I can see some gauges inside there. So again, that's a real quality touch. Again, I'm sorry if I can't get a very good shot of this. Even with the naked eye, it's very, very difficult to see inside there. But yeah, there do seem to be some painted details inside there, which appears to be very, very impressive. Yeah, I mean, that's attention to detail for you, isn't it? Okay, very quickly, let's take another look at the roof, because according to the instructions, there are etched fan grills. And as you can see, I think that must be that one there. And indeed, yes, you can see through that grill into into the bowels of the loco itself, really, which is a nice feature. Again, nice realistic feature that. I think that's the only grille that is actually, you know, etched, but still, it's nice to see that. I can't see that there's a fan behind that or anything, although I suppose that will be more obvious when we get it down onto the track. And I think more or less that is basically it. Oh yes, there are separately fitted metal handrails either side of each door, as you can see, which again is just a nice quality feature, isn't it? It's so much better looking, I think, than just painted plastic. So there we go. Yes, a very, very expensive model, and I think it is pretty expensive, especially given that so many of the details are not fitted out of the box. However, I think this is the best way to do expensive models. I've said this before, but expensive models are fine, and if a manufacturer wants to charge a lot for a model, that's absolutely fine too. But obviously when you get it out of the box, you need to get that quality in your hands. You need to know that no expense has been spared. You don't want things dropping off, you don't want things not working properly. And with this model, even though I've not tested it yet, you seem to get exactly that. You seem to get more or less exactly what you paid for. True quality with this one. I really am impressed so far. So there we go. That's a quick look at some of the details. Hopefully you can get an impression of just how well detailed this model is, really. So that's that. Let's now get it down onto the track then. We'll talk a little bit about the mechanism and the performance, and ultimately let's see how it runs, shall we? Okay, so there is the Class 22 down onto the track, ready for her first ever run. As it stands, I've not actually tried this yet. So I've not had this loco apart. Obviously I didn't really want to be stripping it down before I even tried it for the first time. However, the instructions do claim that this sports quite a beefy 5-pole skew wound motor, which is excellent. That is top notch, isn't it, really? I've looked at the underside of the model and I can see that each of the axles sits into a proper set of bearings, which again is very much top notch. As far as I can tell, the pickups are done through the axles. I don't think there are any brass or copper wipers. Again, I've not had this apart yet, so I could be wrong on that, but generally speaking, when they do pick up through the axles, that is good and reliable, and I can't see any problems with that really. So on paper, the mechanism seems to be top notch, and obviously when it costs what it does, at nearly £150, you would expect nothing less, but at least you have got all of those excellent features packed into this model. However, that is only in theory, that is only on paper. I'm yet to try this yet, and I'm yet to see how this one actually runs. So let's do this for the first time then. I'm going to give it a bit of juice. No idea which direction it's set to go in at the moment, so let's just give it some, shall we, and see what happens. Okay, so turning it on now. This is on DC, by the way. This is not chipped at the moment. Okay, let's give it some. Okay, it's off backwards to start with. And just bear in mind this has not been run in yet, so it might not be at its best at the moment. Okay, so observations so far. I can see lights coming on inside the cabs, which is very nice. I didn't realise it was going to do that. I can see a red light on the back of the thing when it goes backwards, and front headlights on the front when it comes on, so that's very, very good. Okay, well, it seems to be really good and smooth. And quite quiet as well, not too noisy. Let's see how it can crawl. As I say, it might not be the best at the moment because it's not had a chance to run in, but we will at least do it just to say we've done it. Okay, so let's just turn it up a little. Really gently if I can. There we go. It is moving there. So at the moment, that is not an amazing crawl. Let's give it a bit more, shall we? Yeah, I mean, it's a bit jumpy. It is very slow, I must say. I can't really see I can't really see a situation where you'd need to run a loco this slowly on a layout. But the fact that you can is excellent. Yeah, I mean, that's not dreadfully smooth, and it may well improve after it's been run in. But yeah, that seems to be good, doesn't it? It's nice and quiet. It's at least smooth at the more moderate speeds, and the lights look really, really excellent. So I'm going to get this running then. I'm going to set it off forwards to start with. I'm going to do 20 or 30 minutes in each direction, and I'll come back to you once that's happened, and we will see if it's any better. Although, as it stands, pretty good, I would say. So, I don't know about you, but I get the distinct impression that Dapol really do know what they're doing when it comes to diesels. In the past, I've had diesels from manufacturers where I just got the impression that they either couldn't be bothered or just had no clue what they were doing whatsoever. But every aspect of this model seems to be really well planned out. It seems to work really well. The level of detail is excellent, the build quality is spot on, and the instructions are very thorough as well, even down to the exact placement of the different detailing parts that you can fit separately if you like. Just every aspect of it seems to be really impressive, and it seems to cover all bases. So overall, super, super impressed with this. Yes, it's expensive, but I would go as far as to say it's worth it. I know, that's not something I often say, but I think in this case I think that's true. So this thing is awesome. I am loving this. Even the way it looks. I love the way it looks. Very, very retro looking, isn't it? And yeah, definitely see why they gave this the nickname Baby Warship. It does look a lot like the Class 41. Either way, I'm going to leave her running for a little while now. I'll let her run in properly, and I'll join you again in just a second once she's done that. So I'll see you in a little while, and we'll give it another test in a sec. Alright, so it's been running solidly now for the past 45 minutes. A couple of observations. First of all, the brightness of the cab lights is very, very pleasing to me. Obviously it's not over bright, it's not cooking the crew or anything like that, but it's nice and bright so that you can at least see it in a well lit area. You don't have to dim the lights in order to see it, so that's pretty good. Second of all, it seems to be a very, very reliable runner. Absolutely no derailments, it's run without a hitch, no speeding up or slowing down of the motor as it goes along. Absolutely fine, that's really, really good. I have measured the pulling power. Actually, the pulling power wasn't quite as impressive as I thought it might be given the weight of the loco. In fact, I only measured 0.58 newtons, which makes it about the weakest of the diesels I've measured so far, the next weakest being the Class 58 at 0.86 newtons. But at 0.58 newtons, this has about the pulling power of the 9F, or in fact slightly more than the Hornby 9F. Now obviously this is by far the smallest diesel that I've measured on pulling power, and so obviously we're not expecting it to have the pulling power of a wild bison or anything like that. But yeah, so it's not too bad. It's not terribly strong. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it seems to be okay. Okay, so now that it's had a chance to run in, let's just try that slow speed again, see if it's any better. Yep, very slightly better, I would say. That seems to be a little smoother. Let's see if we can get it really slow again. Altogether, not much different, I would say. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's a bit jerky. It's not too bad. I think we've seen a couple of diesels that can crawl a bit better than this, but I don't think it's a complaint. It's just, you know, a bit of an observation. Anyway, as you can see, I have set up some blood and custard coaches, just 5 of them, so she should be more than fine hauling those, I would say. So let's go and try it, shall we? Let's couple her up and see what happens. Try and get it nice and steady. Oh yes, I tell you what, quality is ingrained into every aspect of this model because even the couplings are at the perfect height and they don't droop or anything like that. And these are quite old Lima coaches that she's coupled to, and sometimes there are issues coupling with them straight away, but she has done it, as you can see. So yeah, I must say, absolute top quality model, really, really good, and I think it's worth paying a bit more, isn't it, when you get a sort of sheer quality that you get with this model. Really, really impressed by it, I must say. Okay, so let's give it a shot then, see how it runs. Let the coaches go by for you. There we go. So on the inside line we have the full-sized warship, not just the baby warship, but the actual warship. So there we go. That's a Bachmann one, Class 41 is it? I always forget whether it's 41 or 42. I think it's a 41. And yes, she's got quite a nice rake of, what are they, chocolate and cream coaches, I think? There we go. Mine went dead there for a second. And then on the middle line, a mystery engine for you. Not at all a mystery because I've forgotten what the class is, but we will use this as an opportunity to put up a poll. So there we go, there's a poll right now. See if you can guess which class this is, or obviously if you know, then you can give the answer. So for the time being then, I think the Class 22 is about to enter its second lap, so we'll follow it around this time and see if it manages Gordon's Hill all right. Should do, I reckon. So Dapol really know what they're doing, don't they, with diesel locos. Their steam locos are just all right from what I've experienced so far, but with the diesels, they really are top notch, aren't they? Genuinely can't fault this one. Very, very impressive. And don't forget to try and see which other diesels you can spot on the line and let me know down in the comments if you spot some that you recognise. Good old warship. That's a Bachmann warship. Quite an old one too, but yeah, it does work very well. And there's the baby warship. I love the way the ends look. The windows are very sort of droopy-eyed, aren't they? But nice, in a good way, in a good way. Okay, so here are some of my ratings then for the very, very impressive Dapol Class 22. The detail for me had to be a 5-star, and I think what did it for me was seeing that cab detail. However, there were quite a lot of very, very convincing features on the model, particularly the metal window frames, which look very, very convincing, and also most of the grills, very, very realistic looking grills. So yeah, I think detail has to be 5 out of 5 there. Very, very impressive overall. Performance, I've given this 4-star. Yes, generally it's a good smooth performer. I haven't given it the full 5-star because it's not that much of an amazing crawler and it hasn't got a massive amount of pulling power to it. However, generally speaking, I think the performance was very, very good. And obviously the mechanism left nothing to be desired really. It's got that 5-pole skew-arm motor, proper bearings, decent reliability over point work and that sort of thing. Just can't fault it. It seems to work very, very well indeed. So yeah, that's a 5-star mechanism. Same with the quality really, the build quality is just extremely good. Nothing's broken off it, nothing's flexed, nothing even moves when you lift the thing up, except for the bogies and couplings obviously. Really, really good quality, can't find a way to fault it, and when that's the case, that's when you give it a 5-star, and it definitely deserves that. So, value then, now obviously this is a very, very expensive model. For the RRP of £149.95, that is quite a lot of money. I think at times we have seen other models with slightly better value for money, but the thing is we don't see it very often. So although we have seen better in the past, it doesn't come up often, so I've given it a 4-star there. Generally speaking, the value for money is pretty good, and you certainly do get what you pay for. Overall then, that is 9.20 out of 10. Basically, it ticks all of the boxes. Is that enough to get it into the top 5 though? Let's put it in and see. Yes, it is just. It is in 5th position there, just above the Bachmann Midland 1F and below the C1 Atlantic. Yes, definitely deserving of a top 5 and probably the best diesel I've ever reviewed. Probably. So as I say, the lights are great as well. Hopefully you could see there the cab lights. Very nice and bright. You can definitely tell they're there. I've had a couple of diesels where you wouldn't know there was lighting inside the cabs because they're so dim. But these are just bright enough so that you can tell they're there, but not so bright that they look over the top. Alright then folks, well that will just about do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed seeing this one, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the Class 22 of course. Do let me know down in the comments what you thought about this one. Is it worth the money? Is it not? Let me know what you think and why. But for now, thank you very much for watching, thank you for your company as always, and I will see you all very, very soon. Alright, cheers folks, take care of yourselves.